Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be taking more of your questions in a segment of Ask Judy. If you're enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. This question is from Kristen Moore, who said, my question is about the taboo topic of money. Did the kids on the Waltons get regular paychecks, or was it put in a trust for them? We did get regular paychecks, but because we were underage until we turned 18, a percentage of it, I think it was like 20% or something like that, was put into a trust account, which is mandated by the union to protect children from, that it was the Coogan law. Jackie Coogan, as a child, his parents spent all of the money that he earned. And so when he came of age, he did not have that. So they implemented laws to protect at least a percentage of the children's money so that they have it when they come of age. Then, did salaries and contracts get renegotiated each year as the show gained or lost popularity? There was the opportunity to renegotiate contracts each season, and I'm sure there was some degree it was related to the show's increased popularity, and sometimes the negotiations were successful and sometimes not so much. I mean, we did originally sign, I think, 7-year contracts or something like that, or 5-year, whatever it was. We had a pretty long contract initially, so there were already escalated little pay raises each year. So there was the opportunity to see if you could negotiate above and beyond what your next original contract amount was. The company was under no obligation to do that. So varying degrees of success on that. And then, was the cast contractually unable to do certain activities, hang gliding or make other shows, etc.? There was nothing in our contract specifically on that, although sometimes shows do that. They tended to just sort of turn look the other way when I did things like horse jumping or training with a roller derby team. Fortunately, I didn't have any injuries, so I didn't create any problems for the company with that. But I think potentially, because shows also have to carry insurance in case actors are injured, because if an actor is injured and production shuts down, they lose money. It's not like somebody can come in and do our job for the day if we're sick or we're injured. So I understand films and shows restricting activities for actors, but I'm glad that ours was not super restrictive. I have had, sometimes when I've gone to do plays, I have had contracts that included restrictions on whether it was skiing or skydiving or some of the things that I have done over the years. But I've been pretty lucky that they haven't restricted things I've done, and also fortunate that I haven't had an injury that has impacted my ability to do the work, nor did anybody on the show. I mean, we had circumstances like where the beginning of, I think it was season 5, when Richard between seasons had a motorcycle accident while filming a movie about James Dean. He wasn't playing James Dean, but the movie was about James Dean. And that was why in the beginning of season 5, he was walking with a cane for a few episodes because he had broken his ankle. I've spoken about John Walmsley having broken his hand, and that he talked about it, that originally they had to put a cast on it, and they said, oh, we'll kind of hide it for now and then we'll write it in. But he said they never wrote it in, so he just continued to sort of hide his hand for a few episodes until the cast came off. But other than that, I don't remember any injuries or anything like that either had to be written in or had to be worked around. So we were fortunate that way. And then we were restricted on doing other shows if they conflicted. So if you had an offer to do something that conflicted with our filming schedule, you could take it to the producers and say, hey, Judy's had this offer, and the company was under no obligation to make you available. And for the most part, they chose not to. And I understand that because, again, doing our series was the priority, and that's who we were contracted to. So it would be really tough with 11 regular cast members to try to accommodate everybody's schedule to go out and do other things. I think that in some cases, some of the adults had the opportunity to go do other things and we worked around it or something. Otherwise, it was pretty much during your 3 months off during our hiatus, you were free to do whatever else might become available for you. So that was the way the contracts were. And finally, does the cast still get royalties when folks watch reruns? Union contracts have always, there was a point where they started including residuals, and initially they included residuals only through a certain number of runs, and then they were not obligated to pay residuals beyond that. In 1980, the actors went on strike, and one of the things within the renegotiated contract was extended residuals. So residuals do continue on, but it was not retroactive. So for, I think, our last season or two, the residuals would have gone on in perpetuity, but that was only involving network television, which was the only thing that existed at that point. Syndication has expanded since that time, and so new contracts have come into play. And often that's what the contract negotiations are about is, well, there's new mediums. Now we have all these streaming platforms. Now we have the internet. Now we have, so the usage of our likeness and the shows and the episodes, all of that became part of those negotiations. How are all the different people engaged in the making of a show compensated when now all of a sudden it can be shown on YouTube or it can be shown on another streaming platform. So we do get, minimal royalties for when the show is shown in different places and on different platforms, but it's pretty small. So nobody's retiring off of it. Anyway, that's what I can tell you about that. Becky Banta had a question also along the line of contracts and stuff, saying, I appreciate that each person, each production, leadership, etc., will have their own requirements regarding contracts. Just wondering what they have in common and what must you all super check before signing. Typically, if people have their agent manager look it over, or if they're concerned, they have a lawyer look it over. With a series, I would say having a lawyer look it over would be a good idea, an entertainment lawyer, because they might catch things that don't, that an agent might not know, or certainly that I wouldn't know. The sort of usage things are a big issue, like how are they allowed to use it? Can they make changes to it? Can they re-edit it and make separate stuff? Where can they use your likeness? What do they own of that? Those are the types of things you want to know, because it is your likeness, and you don't want it to be then restricting, like, oh, well, while we are using your likeness, you can't do anything else that would be similar, sort of like those non-compete clauses in other types of businesses. So there's things like that. You just want to know what usage, what rights they are asking for and what you are giving away and what are you getting for it. And, merchandising, do they have to pay you for merchandising? If they slap your face all over the place, do they owe you anything for it? I mean, we constantly are coming across things where people are, somebody's like creating t-shirts with our faces on and selling them, and we're not getting anything from it because somebody just decided that they could make a t-shirt and sell it and make money, and it doesn't occur to them that there are people involved with that. So it's a tough thing to monitor, especially these days with so much stuff all over the internet. So you do the best you can, and I think the company does their best to track things down. So those are the types of things that are of interest, I would say, in contracts. Of course, the main items like what's your billing and how much you're getting paid, and are there residuals, and how much time do you have to work, and all those kinds of standard things are usually pretty evident within a contract. And then you also said you're enjoying hearing about announcements of upcoming reunions. There is going to be one that's just started being posted on Facebook up in the Pennsylvania somewhere. So check Facebook, check Cammie Kotler's feed or Eric Scott's or Mary McDonough's. I'm already booked in October. I'm going to be away. So when I heard those dates, it wasn't something I was available to attend. So I will not be attending the event in Pennsylvania unless my plans change. But there will be something up there. And I believe Cammie, Mary, Eric, and Leslie, and I think Tony Becker are currently scheduled to be there. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Ask Judy with your various different questions about contracts and pay scales and all that. And I hope this was informative for those of you who were interested. And for those of you who weren't, I promise I'll be back with other types of questions soon. Thanks for watching.